In my last few videos, I've been showing you how you can create your own NFT using code, as well as create your own cryptocurrency using code, and in general, how to deploy a smart contract to a blockchain. The missing link is actually creating a front end for those smart contracts, because the everyday user needs to interact with something that's pretty and user-friendly so that they can use your app. So to learn how to build a front end, we are going to complete this tutorial from Dacade. If you check my previous videos, we have started every bit of this, and now we're on the last module, which is how you build a front end. And it actually rewards you with 100 USD if you complete the entire tutorial as well as submit your own work. So follow along with this tutorial so that you can learn how you can connect your smart contract to a front end. So if you haven't signed up already, then sign up for the course on Dacade so that way you can get the 100 USD reward at the end. So you can just check any of my latest videos on YouTube and you'll see a link to it. So yeah, at the bottom here, you see I have a link about signing up to Dacade. So once you've signed up, you click the communities tab and then you go to the Celo community, and then you'll see the two courses. We're doing Celo Development 101. On my channel, I've already covered the module What is Celo as well as Smart Contract Development. So now we're going to focus on the module which is building a front end for the application. So the first thing we need to do is to go to command line and run the following command. If you do not have Git installed, then make sure you install it on your laptop, and all the other applications here you may have to install it as well. So you need to have Git installed. You need to also have Node installed. So you can do something like Brew. You can check on Brew, and Brew will have all the packages for these. So for example, if I search install Git Brew, these are instructions to install Git, and then if you search for the same thing for npm, you'll find the instruction required, and you just run that within your command line. So I'm going to open command line, that's called terminal on a MacBook. I'm going to go to the location that I want to store these files, which is I have a folder called Bitbucket. So I'm just going to go there. So CD is called change directory, Bitbucket. And then I'm going to run the command git clone, and that's the location of the repository where they give us a bit of a template to start with so we can build the application. So just waiting for that to be downloaded. And now we get to the new repository. So that's CD is the command, which means change directory. And we're going to the name of the folder. I'm using a code editor called Visual Studio Code. So I'm just going to open that up and I'm going to navigate to the location of that folder. So I know it's going to be in documents of a folder called Bitbucket, Celo boilerplate. So I'm going to open that here so I can see the contents. So as you can see, it has a section for the smart contracts. It has a section for the HTML code, which is what the user will see. It has a source folder, which has a JavaScript, and then we have some other files here. So package.json, for example, is a bunch of modules that this package.json is a bunch of modules that we'd like to use in our application. We use something called npm, which is Node Package Manager, to manage these modules. So that's why there's this line here called npm install, because we're installing the dependencies such as something called Webpack, something called bignumber.js, etc. So I am going to run npm install, and it will install all of those files. All right, so once that's installed, you then are going to run a local development server so that you can start testing the application. So I'm just going to paste that command within the same terminal, and it said it's compiled successfully. So I can see my project running at localhost port 3000. So I do that, and it says hello world. And just to show you within the code, that is what is in the HTML file right now, hello world. So if I say hello world, if I say hello Alicia Tech subscribers, save that, you see it compiles again. And then if I refresh, hello Alicia Tech subscribers, by the way, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And let's continue. So now we are going to work on HTML via Dapp. So the HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And essentially, this is a structure of what people see when they go on a web page. So everything here that you're seeing on this particular page is created with HTML. And this section is a lot of tags. You're going to see a lot of like keywords or tags that are being used. And if you'd like to learn more about HTML and how it works, if this is your first time using HTML, then I would recommend W3 Schools HTML. They just explain how the tags work. I promise you it's not complicated at all. But I will walk you through it as much as possible. Hopefully you have some programming experience. And if not, just take the time out to learn these things as you go. So the rest of this tutorial, you're going to be copy pasting. You will still be learning even though you are copy pasting. So don't be afraid, because it's essentially showing you how you can create the structure of the application. And when you have to build your own application, you go a bit deeper into understanding what's happening. So this is just saying what the type of the document is. And this head tag, within the head tag is where you include the metadata of your application. So the metadata includes things like if you have any styling sheets, anything that gives the styling to the HTML file. Because as you can see, that hello Alicia was very simple, right? But normally you see websites looking like this. This is called styling, and styling is created with something called CSS, which is another file type. And you can use external file types, etc. So that's what you're doing within the head section. And another thing to note is within HTML, you have to close tags with something like this, and then this here, this exclamation dash dash, that's the start of a comment. So that means the browser will not interpret that line. It's just for you to write notes to yourself or to other developers who are using it. Anyway, so nothing super interesting happening here. And they said next you're going to import some external style sheets. So I'm just going to copy that. You see that's another comment on the top there saying CSS. It's using something called Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a very popular collection of CSS files, which really helps you structure an application. When I was learning HTML and CSS when I was doing my degree, we used Bootstrap. So we barely even did CSS from scratch, which pro and con, I don't know, because it really helps you develop faster. And now they want you to import some icons, and then as well some fonts. And here we're editing the style within this section. And as you can see here, there's a title called Street Food Kigali. So if I were to refresh this page, it would show nothing because we removed the Hello Alicia tag. But you can see the title of the web page is now Street Food Kigali. Kajali maybe? I don't know how you pronounce that. All right, so now we've declared the head, we've put all the style sheets in. Now let's start working with the body of the application. And as you can see, we have a closing head tag. This is the open head tag. This is a closing head tag. So now let's start to look at the body. So again, we're going to create a navigation bar inside of the body element where you can display the name of the Dapp and the CUSD balance of the user. So that's what this section is responsible for. So I'm just going to copy paste that. And as you can see, it's using a class called container, a class called navbar, an HTML tag called nav. So this class, navbar, and container, all of this you can find within the Bootstrap website. There's a website that shows you all the components of Bootstrap. So if I show you Bootstrap components, they have a lot of code that you can just copy paste within your application. So if you want to create a drop-down menu like this, you copy paste this code and you edit it accordingly. So that's why a lot of the code here is copy paste, and it's not a bad thing because sometimes you do copy paste when you're building applications. All right, so let me just save that and refresh the page so we can see what that looks like. Boom, we have the title, and this is where the USD balance will be. So here they say later you will use JavaScript to get the value of the user's balance and display it in that section. So the HTML is responsible for putting your content on the screen, the CSS is responsible for styling the content, and the JavaScript is responsible for adding functionality onto your website. So let's say you want something to happen when the user clicks a button, JavaScript. You would like to change the text on the screen dynamically, JavaScript. Okay, so now they're saying create a div for notifications that you want to display to the user. So they're saying just create a section within the file that allows you to show notifications to the user. And this is the section here. So I'm just going to copy paste that. And for now, it's just going to say loading. So you see it says loading. It has this little icon and the color is yellow. Again, if you look at the styling here, the class is alert, alert warning, rule alert. All of these are things within the Bootstrap, which you'll be able to find. So you see, like, here's an example. And you see the classes alert. So again, it might look like, wow, how are they doing that so nicely? It's because of Bootstrap is why we're able to build and make pretty applications quickly. And that's a godsend, especially if you're typically a backend developer like myself. Now we're going to create a div to display the add product button at the right place. The add product button will toggle a modal that will allow the user to add a new product to the Dapp. So in case you don't know what a modal is, let me just show you. A modal is like a pop-up that shows up on the screen when you click button, like it's normally a form that you have to fill out. So like this is an example of a modal. So I'm just going to copy this. And now you have the add product button, but nothing happens just yet. I've highlighted this data-bs.target, but I'll talk to you about that a bit later. Now, finally, add a main tag with the marketplace ID that will display your products later. So again, you have a section that will display products. So you have an add product button so people can add products to your marketplace, but then you also have a section where you can display products. And of course, these IDs are important because you might reference them later in your code. Okay, so here's the code for the modal, which will pop up when the person clicks add button. So I'm just going to copy paste that. So right now, what we've copy pasted is that we have a modal and it has a title called new product, and then it has a close button so you can close the modal out. And then, so as you can see, nothing happens when we click this button yet. And then now we're adding more information to the modal because essentially we would like to grab information from the user because they're adding a product, right? So we'd want to know what's the product's main name, what's a link to an image of the product, how much are you selling it for, etc. So that's why we have this form. And within this form, we're accepting various types of inputs such as the name of the product, the image URL. So I'm just going to copy paste this. That's a lot. And then finally in the footer, there is the close button and then the add product button. So I'm just going to do that. Sorry for the sniffles. I have a bit of a cold. So if I refresh again, nothing happens. But remember I said when you are interacting with the web page, you normally need JavaScript. So right here, we are going to add some JavaScript at the bottom of the file. And this section is called script. That is the tag that is used when you are adding JavaScript to an HTML file. So I'm just going to copy paste that. And you can reference a file like living somewhere else on the internet. And here we are using a file from Bootstrap. And we're also using another source called Ethereum block keys. We're not going to talk about this just yet, but this Bootstrap file is something that is, again, given to us from Bootstrap. They also give us some JavaScript components as well. And you see they have a section called modal. So if I refresh, if I click add button, it pops up. So let's try to understand why that happens. And if we scroll to the very top of the modal code, we see that the ID is called add modal. And then remember here, when we created the button add product, it has something called data-target, which is referencing the ID add modal because the ID is normally referenced by a number sign. So if I can check the comments I wrote here, data target is used by Bootstrap and it is a part of their JavaScript package. So you don't have to write the code to link the two. This links the button to the modal so that when you click the button, the modal appears. And as we can see, that happened. So things are going nicely so far, and that is the first section of the tutorial. So now let's add some basic functionality to the application. So they're saying you will create a function version in vanilla JavaScript, and we need to open the main.js file within the source folder of our project. And they would like us to copy and paste this. Now, these are the list of products which we're going to show in the application, but this is just temporarily because right now the app is not connected to the smart contract and the smart contract is responsible for storing the products. Just going to copy that in the main.js file within the source folder and save. And nothing happens because we didn't link it to our application yet. And now we're just going to hard code some of the data. So we're just continuing with that. So there's a function called get balance, which we would normally use to put the balance in that section here, right? So we're just hard coding the value as 21. So you see it's saying document query selector, hashtag balance, hashtag meaning wherever we see ID balance within our HTML file. And if I just search balance within the HTML file. So here it says 0. It's saying where we see balance, let's set it to 21. And now there's another folder called render products. And it's saying wherever you see the element marketplace, we're going to go through the products array. So that is this array here. This is an array of products. And then for each of those products, we are going to create an element, which is a div. We're going to give it a class name of column MD4. Again, this is from Bootstrap. And then we're going to set the inner HTML as the product, which we're going to pass into another function, which I'm sure we're creating later. And then we're going to keep appending each of these divs to that. Just going to copy paste that. And then finally, we're going to create the HTML of the product, because remember, it has a function here called product template, and you send the product in. And with the product template, we're going to return some HTML, which basically specifies how it's going to look. And we're going to pass the source as a product image, how many is sold, etc. So I am just going to copy that. And then as we continue here, there's another function which we're using, which is called Identicon template, which we'll create a function for later on, but we just would like to create a visual representation for the owner address, because remember, a crypto address is like a hash and it's not really the prettiest looking thing. So I'm just going to paste that here. And Identicon is a visual representation of a hash value. So it's basically creating an ID out of like a crypto address, and it's using the Blockies library, which is a tiny library that's responsible for creating images based on crypto addresses, which I think is cute. So just copy that, paste that. And now we're just going to create some functions. This is for setting the notifications. So whatever text we passed in as a notification, we're going to put it wherever we have the notification section within our code, which is here. And then finally, we're going to create some event handlers. This is the most exciting part. Now we're going to add some event handlers, which is where the JavaScript listens for various events that happen on the web page and do various things. So as you can see, we're saying whenever the web page loads, we're going to set the notification to loading, get the balance, which means we're hard coding it to 21 as we did before, show the products, and then turn the notification off once those things are done. So just gonna paste that. Bada bing, bada boom. Look at the products looking nice and juicy. I can't click these buttons yet. I can click this one, but we didn't, handle this functionality just yet. So when the user clicks on the new product button within inside the modal, you'll receive all the values from the form. And that's what this section of the code is saying. So when we click the new product button, add event listener click. And then you're going to retrieve the values of the form, such as whatever they wrote for the product name, the image URL, the product description, etc. Of course, we're assuming that they did put values in because we're not testing this. And we're going to set sold to 0 because no products would be sold at this point. We are going to also set the owner as this value that's hard coded here. And then they're going to give you a notification which says you have successfully added this particular product. And now they're going to render the products again. And now I'm just going to copy that. All right. So if we can just test that. And if I could just use an image of ramen noodles, copy image address, add product. That looks so good. So now we have the ramen that's added. And now we'd like to allow people to buy the ramen noodles. So here we are saying if the user clicks the buy button, then we're going to save the index of the product they clicked on and then increase the number of times the item has been sold and then send them a notification that renders the products again. So get the ID of the target that they clicked, then increment that particular index within the product array and increment sold as 1. Set a message saying, hey, you bought it, and then reload the products. So just going to do that. Of course, right now, if you reload the products, yeah, it will show it. So if I copy that, paste that. Of course, this is going to disappear because every time we reload it, it's going to reload the products away from scratch. So I'm just going to buy the giant barbecue then. And it says you successfully bought it. Boom, boom, boom. Just keep buying it. All right. So brilliant. So now we're going to move on to actually linking the smart contract to this Dapp. So let's get started. So we are going to use a bunch of new libraries, which means we're going to interact with things like Web3.js, but we're interacting with it via something called Contract Kit, which is a library that allows you to interact with the Celo blockchain. It also includes Web3.js, which is a very collection of libraries that we use to interact with the blockchain. I'm very excited because if you have been watching my older videos, you would have used Web3.js already. So open the main.js file that you just worked on, expand it, and first clear the products array. So for us, I'm not going to clear the products array. I'm just going to comment it because, You know, you might want to use these images in the future. It will just make it easier for you. So I'm just going to comment it because it's good inspiration. The way I commented that, by the way, is I highlighted everything and I hit command and / at the same time. And I can do the same thing to uncomment it. By commenting it, it means that the compiler, or in this case, the web browser, will ignore that text. So I'm just going to copy these lines. So import Web3, import all these nice things. And we are going to set the variable ERC20 decimals to 18. By default, ERC20 decimals is 18. Because if you remember, within the blockchain world, especially Ethereum virtual machines, there's no such thing as a decimal per se, which we know we're used to with money. They're just really, really large numbers. If you want to go from decimal to way, there's something called ETH converter. So let's say you wanted to represent 1.5, like $1.50, then that's how much weight it is. So 1 ether is 10 to the 18 weight. So that's how you'd figure that out. Now we're going to create a function to connect to the Celo extension wallet. If I just copy that. First, we're checking to see if the user has a Celo extension wallet. If the Celo wallet does exist, then do these things inside here. If not, then send a notification saying to please install it. And when the user does approve, if the user does have the wallet, we're going to ask them to please approve the Dapp to use it, which means you're going to see a pop-up telling them to, connect the application. And then we can instantiate the Web3 objects and create a new kit instance. So here we're going to create a new Web3 object where we're using the Celo wallet as the provider. And then we're going to create a new kit object using that Web3 object. So now if we go to the application, I don't have the wallet installed. So I'm going to need to install that wallet. All right, so now I have the Celo wallet. So then as well, they would like to also get the accounts, and they're going to set their default account as account 0, just because like within the Celo wallet, you're going to have just one address right now. So we are just going to copy paste this again and replace this. Or actually, we could just add the new line, which is here. I'm going to just get the default account that we're going to use. So now we have another function which we're going to do. So we're going to replace the get balance function with this new function. So we're saying that we're going to get the total balance using the contract kit, which is helping us interact with the blockchain. We're going to get the balance of this default account. Then we're going to shift the number that we get by 18 decimal places, because remember, they're only really large numbers represented within an EVM compatible blockchain. And then we're just going to fix it to 2 decimals. So for example, if you have 1400 instead, well, not 1400, if you have this really big number, then instead you will get 14. So I'm just going to copy that, and then I'm going to comment out this one because we no longer need this. And similarly, what they're going to do is within the section where we were saying when the page load, what do? We have a function. We're going to put the notification loading, wait for us to connect to the Celo wallet, then get the new get balance, and we're going to do await because this is also an asynchronous function because we have to await for this step to complete, and then turn the notification off. So I'm just going to copy that and go back to our window. Yeah, here, and just do that. And you can see we're no longer rendering products because we're not going to use that function just yet, because technically we're supposed to get the product from the smart contract. And since we are now interacting with asynchronous functions, we need to add the keyword async here as well. And then if we refresh, then they're now saying, hey, connect us. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Then I say connect. And then boom, I have no CUSD, which is unfortunately correct. And now we can move on to adding products. We can get some testnet CUSD. So if we go here to fund the address and then Celo sent. So if we just connect this to the testnet, see I have 1 Celo. So if I go back to the app and I refresh, I have 1 Celo, which is amazing. Well, not 1 Celo, but 1 CUSD, which I also have. Because here you see I have 1 CUSD. Awesome. So things are getting even juicier, and now we can read and write to our smart contract. So this is the final section. Well, not the final section, but we're almost at the end of it. So first and foremost, let's go to Remix. And if you have done this previous step where you had to create the smart contract, then you would already have the smart contract. But if not, you can just follow along from here so you can understand what's going on. I have mine here. Marketplace.sol. Perfect. And now they're saying that they would like you. So I'm just going to compile that so it's nice and fresh. And I'm going to go back to Dacade. In order to interact with the smart contract, you need to interact with the contracts interface. And within the blockchain ecosystem, or at least within the Ethereum blockchain ecosystem, this is called the application binary interface, or for short, we call it the ABI. So when you're interacting with the ABI, you first have to have access to this ABI. So you can get that actually. So they're saying go within the contract section, click marketplace.json, and we'll click the market ABI.json. And then just copy it. So go within Remix, make sure it's compiled, and then you can copy the ABI. So if we go to Remix, it's compiled, and if we just go down to marketplace.sol, and here you have the ABI, you can copy it. Now that we have the ABI saved, we can now import it within our contract. Within our JavaScript file. So import marketplace ABI, which is the name that we're giving to it, from the folder contract/marketplace or ABI.json. And then they're saying after you deploy the contract, you will receive the address of the contract, which you will need in order to find the contract to interact with. So you do have a contract address, which you can use, or you can deploy your own contract, because if you use this contract, then there might already be some things deployed to it. So for those of you who have not deployed it, I guess I should use this too, but I'll also deploy mine so that I can show you what that would look like. So deploying it to, actually not that one. Go here in the Celo extension, marketplace.sol, connecting this to the wallet, and then deploy it. We should have the following variables. We should have kit, contract, and products, right? And essentially in this section here, once the user connects their Celo Wallet, you'll create an instance of a marketplace so that the contract, so that you can interact with it. So here they're saying contract is equal to new kit.web3.h.contract. This is just what you have to write. Don't worry about it. The marketplace ABI, which is what you declared here. You sent an ABI, and then the marketplace contract address, which we should have declared at the start. I think I forgot to do that. So MP marketplace address is equal to this address. Perfect. And then they're saying you should define this as well. Perfect. And then within the connect Celo Wallet function, we're just going to add that line. Perfect. All right. So now we're going to start in this line. We're assigning the global variable contract to the contract that we just compiled. So now that we can interact with the smart contract. So now we can start calling some of the methods of this actual contract. So we have something called get products. We have a function called get products. So we're going to create a new function called get products, and we're going to find out how many products are within it. So get products, right? And it's saying the product's length is equal to a wait, because we have to wait for the communication to the smart contract to come back. Contract.methods.get products length, which is actually a method within our smart contract. As we can see here, get products length, which is going to say 0 for now. So for as many products there are within the smart contract, we are going to try to read the product information. So that's what we're doing here. So we are saying we're doing a promise because we're waiting for the transaction to happen, but we're just saying that we are going to await for the read product method, which is here. And we're going to pass the product identifier. Remember, you start counting at 0. So we are then going to get the index, the owner, the name, the image, the description, the location, etc. And then we're going to add it to the products array. And when this is finally finished, we're going to render the products. Now we're going to allow users to save products because remember, we like them to do that within the smart contract. We're going to show notification when we add a new product. And then finally, we're going to use one of the contract methods to add the product. So as you can see, we're saying await contract.methods write product. We're going to add the params, which are the parameters that we first created here. And then we're going to send it from the default account, who is the person who's interacting with the smart contract or interacting with the web page as well. If there are issues, then we say an error. If not, we successfully added the product. And then now we're going to call get products again because we'd like to also render the products now that we've added a new one. So just going to delete that. And then we need to change one line in the product template function. And I think that's the price because we're dealing with big numbers. We need to convert the price. So I'm just going to convert the CUSD section. So if I go back to index.html, main.js, and where you have the price, just going to change that. Is that correct? Okay. And then finally, you can get all their products once the Dapp is loaded. So if I do this and now when the Dapp is loaded, right, now we get products. If I refresh, I will see no products. But if I were to use their smart contract, let's see if there are already some products stored. So if I were to just copy paste that. Yeah, they have a bunch of products on their smart contract because other people, I'm sure, would have used it. So if I go back to using my smart contract, because why not, I'm going to then add a product and I'm going to call it the chicken ramen. So successfully added chicken ramen, and I'm expecting this to refresh and show my chicken ramen. Why did that not work? So I'm back with the changes. I had some lunch and now you can see I also have my chicken ramen here on display from my smart contract. So if we go here in Remix and we check, we see I have one item. So let me explain to you the changes required so that you can add it to your code as well. I added a few extra steps which you don't have to add, but here I just checked to see what the chain ID was. And if the chain ID is not the ID of the testnet for Celo, then I'm going to just send a notification saying like, hey, please switch to the Celo testnet. And whenever the chain changes, I also would like to reload the page. So second thing is wherever you see kit.web3, remove kit. We're no longer going to be using contract kit because contract kit is what's required to interact with the Celo Wallet extension, but we're no longer using that. But the libraries that we get from Web3 are definitely sufficient, and actually contract kit does use those libraries as well. So the methods are very similar. So that's the second change. The third change is I created a whole new function called Connect Metamask Wallet. And it's exactly the same as the Connect Celo Wallet, except wherever you see window.celo, you're going to put window.ethereum. And the way that we get the accounts as well, remember I've removed Kit from in front here. So you see Kit was here, but it's no longer here. So that is a change that was required. As well as we will need to get the balance, right? So the other change I did was how we got the balance. So if you look at the get balance function, I have to get a CUSD balance. But because I'm using the generic Web3 library, I cannot just get the CUSD balance simply. I would have to interact with the CUSD smart contract. And as we know, the CUSD smart contract is an ERC20 token, so it inherits from the ERC20 token. So that means by using the ERC20 ABI, we will be able to interact with that smart contract. So this ERC20 ABI was already provided to us by the Celo boilerplate that we downloaded at the start. So if we go back to main, I just imported the Celo ABI. I imported the ERC20 ABI, and then here I initialize a smart contract using that ABI, as well as using the CUSD token address. Remember, this is a CUSD token address on the testnet, on the Celo testnet. So if you are dealing with the mainnet, then make sure that this address is correct. So when I have to get the balance, I then do a smart contract call. So ERC20 contract methods, the method is called balance of. I pass the default account and I call it, and I have to obviously wait for that. And when I get the response, the way that I display the response to the user, normally if you get the response, it would be in way, which is 18 decimal places, or 10 to the 18, sorry. So to be able to convert that to Ether or to something that we recognize in decimal, I will have to use the method from way. So if I look at the Web3 library, if you go to Web3 utils, there is a method called from way. We pass a number in, which is a number that is 10 to the 18 decimal place, 10 to the 18. And so we pass the way value in, and then we say to what unit we'd like it to be converted to. In this case, it's Ether. And then because I wanted it to always have 2 decimal places when it comes to displaying the values, I say pass float to fixed 0. So I change it to a float, and then I say I would only like 2 decimal places. All right. And I think there are a few other changes around the formatting of the numbers. So where we display the products in the product template, I also did the from way, and I switched it to Ether, and I did 2 fixed as 2. And I think when we do add product as well, so new product button. So if I just put a comment adding the product, then okay, so here when I get the parameters, let's say the user put the price as 4.5 because they want to sell something for like $4.50, then I am going to convert that to way. So I use web3.utils at 2way, and I just pass that value in. And yeah, that's about it for the changes, and it all works. So if I can just display that to you and say add product pancakes, this is 550. And this is going to initiate a blockchain transaction. So adding pancakes. Yay, you have successfully added pancakes. And that looks so good. Like I would buy this. Like, why does this store not exist? I love it. Okay, so now we can go back to the tutorial because we see that works. If I go to my smart contract as well, I do call, you see we have 2 products. So let me see, what am I doing now? Okay, so let's go back to the tutorial from Dacade, and we have to do a few more things. So we have to implement the pay function. So part of implementing the pay function, they did add the ERC20 ABI, and they did add the contract address for CUSD. And then they say before you can make a transaction, you first have to get the user's approval to make the transaction. Okay, so basically we have to give approval for that smart contract to be able to transfer tokens from our wallet to the person who created the product for sale. So we have to give the smart contract permission to take the tokens from our wallet to the other user's wallet. So that method is normally called approve. So as you can see, they have a function called approve. They're taking in the price. So you're only going to approve for that much money that you're going to spend. It's going to create the CUSD contract. I already did that previously. And then it is going to check the method approve, pass the smart contract of our marketplace, pass the price, and then send it from the default account. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I will just change it up a bit differently because of the fact that we are no longer using contract kit. So approve, wherever I see kit, I move it. I think I called mine CUSD token address. Wherever I see kit, I remove, and that should work. Okay, so now we have to add a listener to the buy button so that whenever the user clicks it, they're able to buy the product. So here they're adding the event listener click to the button that has the ID marketplace. And if the class of that of that item includes buy button. Then we are going to get the target ID, which means we're going to get the product ID. Now we're going to try to call the approve method, so that way we can approve the smart contract to be able to spend that amount. And once the approve happens successfully, they're then saying, now we can do the payment. So first we approve, and then once that happens successfully, then we can call the method buy product. And, there'll be a blockchain transaction. And when that transaction completes successfully, then we can say that we bought the product. So just going to copy both sections of code. So again, wherever you see kit, you're going to remove it because we're no longer using kit. All right, so now that we've added miso soup, now we can buy miso soup. So just going to say buy. So first transaction is give permission to access USD, and I'm giving permission to the following contract to access the funds. And as we can see in the code, that is the contract 88D. And we are going to say sure thing. It's going to be for 0.5 CUSD. You could approve for more if you want to, but this is actually safer, just, requires more gas. So now that we have approved it, now we're going to confirm that we're going to buy the token. So that transaction is still pending. So we have successfully created a marketplace on the Celo testnet, added products, bought the products, still waiting to receive the products. But this is really dope. Like, we have a marketplace here. The UI looks good enough. I mean, we have a lot of changes to make. For example, you shouldn't have the user, you shouldn't cause the user to just automatically sign into MetaMask. Like, you should have a button where the user says, I would like to sign in. That's a bit rude, but nonetheless, like, this is really nice. So let's keep going. I think I'm just really excited because I love pancakes. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so now we're going to host the Dapp. We can host it anywhere we would like to, but here they're suggesting we host it on GitHub Pages, which I don't mind one bit because I have never used GitHub Pages. So let's see. So in the final section of your tutorial, we will show you how you can host your project on GitHub Pages so other people can interact with it. So after testing your Dapp and checking that everything behaves correctly, you can build it in command line. Okay, let's do that. npm run. Don't mind this. This is just me recording the audio. So if I just open up a new window in the same folder, npm, what is it? Run build. I'm just so excited that we have this marketplace. I'm gonna sell some pancakes, some miso soup. All right. So upload your project to a new GitHub repository. Once you're inside of it, then All right. So if we can go to GitHub. Then we say new repo, and we call it Dacade Celo 101 demo. All right, so once inside your repository, click on settings, scroll down to a section called GitHub Pages, and then select the master branch on the docs folder. Okay, and create master branch and the docs folder as a source for your GitHub pages. Okay, no problemo. All right, so once you have the files uploaded, now you're going to go into settings, and then you go to pages, and you say it's on the main branch, and it's from the docs folder. You then say save, and then your site is ready to be published here. So I'm going to click that, and I can choose a theme and all that good stuff. Let's see. If there's anything. Oh! That's that good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, like, I'm so excited. One of my miso soup was sold. Everybody in the world knows because it's on the blockchain. Ain't nobody lied about it. It was on the testnet. I never received the miso soup, but here we are. Okay, I don't even know where the accent coming from. Like, I'm so excited. Why am I so excited? I've done this before, but I'm so excited. So here we are. Everything is working as it should. Let's try again to buy some miso because we really don't have the money out here like that right now. But when we submit our own version of this project, then we will have the money like that and we can buy anything on here. But this is a testnet, but you know what I'm saying. So waiting for approval. So we're just waiting for that transaction to be approved. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. All right, so the transaction was approved, and now we can buy the product. So you see, buy product. And then if I bought the product, the miso will show up at my door, supposedly, allegedly, and then you'll see 2 sold. So awaiting payment. I am not feeling well right now, and as a result, somehow I'm super hyper. Anyway, so you have successfully bought miso soup and 2 sold. If this is not beauty, I don't know what is. All right, so that's done. And what is the next thing I have to do? Yeah, that's done. We're done. Oh my gosh, we're done. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this tutorial with me and enjoying the festivities. The next step, if you would like to earn from actually learning from this course, you would need to submit your own Dapp. And I feel like we should build one together. Of course, if we build one together, you'd have to submit your own anyway, because you have to be unique. But anywho, we will submit our own version of this Dapp so that we can earn 100 USD. And here are the rules. You have to create the Dapp and you have to build upon the code provided. Write a sentence that explains your Dapp, and then obviously publish your Dapp on GitHub. And then submit it. And here they have a rating rubric which shows you, so like if you have original code, if your Dapp is functioning and all that good stuff, and you have some originality in the front end, then you are going to get some points. And yeah, I think we're going to do that next.